I think the people hemming and hawing about the Open and the programming, they're not looking at it from the proper lens, and they also might not understand CrossFit as well as they think they do. Okay, what is up, everybody? I want to take a little bit of time and discuss and assess the 2022 CrossFit Open. There's been a lot of controversy around it, a lot of talk, and in this day and age, everyone can put their voice out there, and so I'm going to put mine out there because I have a slightly different perspective than what I've seen coming out from some people. So for members at my gym, just understand that a lot of what I'm saying in terms of negative things I've heard about the Open, it has not come from you guys. It's come from the outside CrossFit community. And so just a little preface there, since I know my members are the main people who watch this. But I think it's, so assessing the Open this year, it's important to kind of do a little bit of history and talk about what the Open used to be, and I think why some people are upset with the Open in its current state and what the workouts ended up being. So we have to first look at what is the purpose of the Open. So, the CrossFit Games started in 2007. It was an open invitation. Anyone could come and compete. 2008, I think it was the same way. And then 2009, they started to have enough people interested that they were like, ooh, we can't just have all these people come to the CrossFit Ranch and throw down. Like, we need to have a sort of a filtering process, because we don't want just any old schmucks. We want some of the best of the best, right? The point of the CrossFit Games is to find the fittest on earth. So 2009, they started, I believe, sectionals. This was actually before I was in CrossFit. They had, sectionals. And then 2010, they started playing around with regionals, which then qualified you to sectionals. And then 2011 is when kind of this more modern era of the CrossFit Games started, and they created the CrossFit Open, which was an online event. Anyone could sign up for the Open, and then that would filter them into their region, and you would have regionals, and then from regionals, you would qualify to the CrossFit Games. So there's 3 steps: the Open, regionals, and then the Games. So by this point, they were, they're starting to get pickier about who's coming to the actual CrossFit Games. So regionals, it was the top 3 from each region would move on to the Games, and only the top 40 from each region would go from the Open to their regional. And so there was still the Worldwide Open, but then you could sort yourself into your region, and that, the top 40 in each region would move on. And so there was, different regions in Europe, different regions within the US. Like, it wasn't as broad as it is now. It was much more geographically located. So there was the North Central Regional, I believe. Yeah, that was the first one. And that was like Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, and maybe 1 or 2 other states. But South Dakotas and anything. Anyways, those people in those areas would be in the North Central region, and then they would filter into their regional. So you had quite a big number of people per region filtering into, I believe it started at 60 spots, and then in future years it reduced down to 40 spots, because pretty much they found out, like, hey, these bottom 20 people actually aren't that fit. And not that they're not that fit, but the level that they're trying to get to. And so they're like, this is too long of a day. These bottom 20 people, they don't even have a chance of qualifying. So we're just going to chop those 20 off. And then they went to 40. And then they actually further condensed it, and they made super regions, where I think that started in 2015. The Central East region, which was like Ohio and Michigan and Indiana and all that area, combined with the North Central Regional, and there was just the Central Regional. And then the way they did that was the top 20 from the North Central Open region and the top 20 from the Central East Open region would then combine to have this sort of, again, super regional of the top 20 men and the top 20 men from each of those open regions into the super regional, and obviously women as well, and the teams and all that stuff. So, then after the 2018 season, Greg Glassman pretty much eviscerated the existing CrossFit Games structure. He got rid of regionals. He said, we're going to have outside events, do some of these qualifying things. We're not going to run it anymore. I think regionals was actually losing CrossFit money, which is a part of the reason why they wanted to get rid of them. And, he also said that the CrossFit Open would still be there, but that the top 20 people from the Open in each division would get an automatic berth to the Games. So suddenly now the Open was sending you directly to the Games. And I guess my point in framing this and giving this background is the Open used to filter people from a very, very broad end into a very narrow spectrum. Like, you really had to be elite fit. We're talking like top 500 in the world or so to qualify for regionals. And so the point that I'm getting to here is the test of the Open needed to be way more robust and way more, have more separators in it to get these elite athletes to that next stage. They didn't want just anyone. They didn't want people who were only able to do cardio or only strong. Like, you really had to have this, true fitness, this true well-rounded fitness. And what happened is the movements that they would use to test people's fitness, I think, have been conflated with the test of fitness itself. So, things like Olympic lifts and, gymnastics and some of the other movements that got used to test people's fitness and filter out the elites have become these defining movements of the Open. And because they weren't present this year, people suddenly think, well, those movements aren't there, therefore this isn't a complete test. And I don't agree with that. I think if you look at the CrossFit model of fitness, so if, anyone who's done their CrossFit level 1, maybe you don't remember this, maybe it's been so long, but there's 3 models of fitness. You had the 10 general physical skills, you have the Hopper model, and then the metabolic pathways. So the 10 general physical skills, you've got strength, stamina, cardiorespiratory endurance, flexibility, you've got speed and power, and then you've got agility, accuracy, coordination, and balance. So those are the elements that are kind of common to all athletic endeavors in sport. And there's almost an unlimited way to test those. But because of, the fact that the Olympic lifts are some of the best movements at testing speed, power, strength, balance, coordination, agility, like they just hit on so many things. Like, you really have to be an elite athlete to show great proficiency with those lifts. And so when the Open was needing to filter people fast, they needed to get down to the really good athletes quickly, over the course of just 5 tests or so, they needed to, or they chose to include those movements fairly often. And, there's a variety of ways to do it. You can do it as a ascending strength ladder. You can do it as a 1 rep max after a workout. They've gone through multiple iterations and ways of testing things. Like 2015, there was a AMRAP for, 10, 15 minutes. I can't remember the exact time. And then afterwards, there was a heavy barbell 1 rep max clean and jerk. And there was controversy because you had people who would be signed up for the affiliate team, and they basically would do 1 rep in the AMRAP and then just rest to get this massive barbell lift. Actually, my original business partner was someone that got his score disqualified because they accused him of doing that. And he actually did give a full go at the workout, but at the time he was just a weightlifter, and he had joined an affiliate, and was trying to help them qualify for the games. So anyways, that was, interesting thing that happened. But there were people who literally would just do a toes to bar. They didn't actually have any aspirations of competing or being on the affiliate team. They just wanted to help their gym that they trained at or whatever qualify, so they would, put up a massive lift. Anyways, so these Olympic lifts, some of these gymnastics movements, toes to bar, other things, ring muscle ups, those were used as a filter, as a way to funnel the field down so that regionals, and then again, like the 2019 and 2020 games sent people directly, or the Open sent people directly to the games. So having these, sort of higher end movements made sense. That said, the Open has always been something that is for the CrossFit community and something for the CrossFit affiliates. It is a chance for affiliates to come together, celebrate their fitness. It is a chance for the intermediate athletes to test if they had developed new skills, if they were able to get more ring muscle ups this year. And I think for myself, as I assess my own performance in those years and how I let that dictate my training, I got too caught up in, I struggled with snatches or heavy this or heavy that. And so I would train that movement specifically rather than looking at, okay, my overall fitness wasn't good enough, right? And I would get too honed in on certain movements rather than continuing to train in a true CrossFit program my overall weaknesses. So when you look at this Open, it's important to frame what the goal of that test is for. And so 2021, they introduce the quarterfinals and then the semifinals. And I think it's brilliant. I love quarterfinals. The top 10% in your region, right, which is a much bigger North America, Europe, whatever, move on to the quarterfinals. And then the elite go on to semifinals. And so what we have now is they sent out an email again. It looks like last year it was 5 events. This year it's going to be 5, maybe 6 events for quarterfinals. So before it was 5, maybe 6 events in the Open that would lead to semifinals. To regionals. Or just 5, 6 events and then you're in the games. And then now we actually are getting more tests to qualify people for semifinals, which then will qualify people to the games. And so if you look at it from this bigger perspective, from an affiliate owner, I like that the Open is 3 weeks. It's much easier to manage. I'm able to get more buy-in from my members. And for most people, that's really all they need. 3 weeks, it's not this big, long period of time. And you still do get to test your fitness. And I get it. There wasn't any heavy Olympic lifts this year, or any Olympic lifting technically, but then you still had pull-ups, chest-to-bars, bar muscle-ups, heavy thrusters. If you don't think 135 thruster is heavy, then you're an elite athlete, and I bet even they would say, it's heavy, but they could handle it. At the end of that workout, it was even heavier. 225 deadlift for needing to do 100 reps in 10 minutes plus 100 burpees. That's a pretty good test of strength. No, it's not. You're testing your absolute top end strength, but that doesn't mean strength wasn't tested. So in terms of what this purpose of this Open served, or what the goal of it was, which is to find the top 10% of athletes, in order to advance to quarterfinals, you needed to show capacity in all 10 general physical skills. You had to have strength. You had to have stamina. You had to have cardiorespiratory endurance. You had to have agility, balance, coordination, flexibility, the ability to get into an overhead position. That makes a difference for the wall walks. It makes a difference for thrusters, for pull-ups, things like that. Strength. You had to be strong enough to move that barbell with speed many times over. That's what CrossFit cares about, is your ability to be strong across be fit across a broad time and modal domains, not just top end strength. They want you to be strong in many different capacities. So will top end absolute strength get tested in quarterfinals? Probably. It looks like it. And would that being completely omitted be, maybe lacking for qualifying people before they get to the games? Yeah, one could argue, probably. But I just personally don't agree with this narrative I've seen that the Open had some of the worst programming ever, that it wasn't a complete test. Like, look, it's 3 events advancing people onto quarterfinals where you're going to have to do 5 or more events to get to semifinals. It's doing its job. I don't think anyone would really say otherwise. So again, going back to my initial sort of like history of the Open and what the test of it was for, it's important to frame it in that perspective. The Open is for the affiliates, it's for the community, and yes, it is the first stage of qualifying for the CrossFit Games. Those tests, they weren't cakewalks. It's not like everyone was finishing those workouts. Only the, best were finishing all those workouts, cruising through them. And even then, you can't really say they were cruising. They're just incredibly fit. It tested all the different metabolic pathways. You had to use your ATP-CP to do those deadlifts, right? And then you also simultaneously had to use your glycolytic pathway and your oxidative pathway. And if you don't know what those are, basically you've got super short, medium, and long duration energy systems for fueling your body. You had the hopper. I know people are complaining that there wasn't this big range because it was 10, 12, and 15 minutes. But for the elites, we had people finishing in 4 or 5 minutes. That was a sprint. And then you had, the deadlifts. It's a 10-minute workout or less for some people. And then you had 15 minutes. Again, no, that isn't like this complete spectrum of all possible time domains, but it still is a wide enough spectrum where it's like, hey, that first workout, that was mainly cardiorespiratory endurance. Stamina, some strength, some agility, some flexibility, some coordination. Again, it's hitting all these different points of what is fitness, but it was primarily, do you have the lung capacity to keep moving at a fast pace for 15 minutes? That is a pretty long time domain. If you go much longer than that, it starts to get pretty difficult as an affiliate to run the Open. And again, the Open is primarily about the affiliates and the community. And I think that's important to keep that in perspective, because now in quarterfinals, it's going to just be some of these more serious, committed athletes who hopefully are going to work with their affiliate to say, hey, here are the events. Here's what I need to do. When can I do them? They're going to be longer, drawn-out workouts. There's going to be shorter, more intense strength pieces, probably more high, technicality movements, Olympic lifts. They've got rope climbs. They've got a flat bench, so we might see bench press in the Open. It's 2 dumbbells, so it might be dumbbell bench press as part of a Metcon. How cool is that? That's fun. But if they were to program, a 4-rep max bench press as part of the Open, it's not really all that practical for an affiliate. So that has to be kept in perspective. And that's just something I think that was missing in a lot of these people's critiques. So I think, it's just important to frame what the Open is, what its purpose is. And this Open absolutely achieved that goal and that purpose. And I think if you're still complaining, was the Open perfect? No. I was honestly disappointed there wasn't a repeat. That's a staple of the Open. Again, I'm looking at it from that historical perspective as well there. So who knows what's going to happen in the future, especially now that Adrian Bosman is taking over programming. The levels system of this CrossFit that they're introducing, I think that was rolled out poorly so far. I still don't really know what it is. They've talked about it a little bit. I'm excited about it, but I think they could have done more with it, or hopefully they will do more with it. I think it's going to get better. So it's important to remember the Open has been an ever-evolving process. It's not just been this one perfect thing every year, and then now it's all messed up. It has evolved and changed year after year after year to get better and better and better. And after 2018, when Glassman shook everything up, it's kind of taken a little bit of time, not to mention now we had that pandemic where it's okay, where are we going with this? What is the future vision? And I think they're starting to get clarity around what that vision is and how things are going to work. And I'm excited for the future of the Open. So no, it wasn't perfect, but I think the people hemming and hawing about the Open and the programming, they're not looking at it from the proper lens. And they also might not understand CrossFit as well as they think they do. Because if they are basing whether the programming was good and whether the Open tested well enough to advance people to the next stage, they just might not understand the methodology as well as they think they do, because they're basing it on whether a very specific test was included or whether certain movements were included. I have seen some interesting points of intermediate people being like, I've worked hard on my Olympic lifts and toes to bar, other things, and they weren't in the Open. And again, if you're focused on one or two movements, you're not basing your fitness on a well-rounded perspective. And yeah, you're going to have weaknesses, and that's what Castro loved to do. He loved to expose weaknesses. So maybe he noticed that, hey, this is what I have done every year, and now I'm going to completely change that. And I'm just going to do a grunt workout and another grunt workout where you still have to be strong. And then, a shorter workout where, within my affiliate, I had people get their first pull up, first chest to bar, first bar muscle up. Like, still lots of PRs happened. I had members deadlifting 225 for the first time. They've been working hard at their strength, and they're like, hey, this is achievable for me. So it's not like the Open didn't test intermediate athletes or even beginner athletes. People were doing their first wall walk, their first box jump at the recommended height, first time doing the dumbbell snatch at that weight. Like, it pushed people out of its comfort zone. It effectively filtered people into the next stage. And so, yeah, I think this Open was a success. I think it was good. And I'm excited for the future. So we'll see what happens in quarterfinals. Maybe we'll see a repeat in quarterfinals. And yeah, we'll see what the CrossFit Levels system is like. But a lot of good is on the horizon. And I do think that this Open was a success. Yes, it's still a work in progress, but I don't have a negative viewpoint on it. I loved it. I know my affiliate loved it. My members loved it. And so that is my voice in this matter. So thank you all for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day. Get to the gym, work out, train, have fun, and see you around.